Listen to the podcast. Just search for Hancock and Kelley.
The House Judiciary Committee held a hearing to look into the prosecution and conviction of former President Donald Trump by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. One of those testifying against Bragg was Missouri's Republican Attorney General Andrew Bailey.
We're a nation of laws that are supposed to be equally applied. Instead, the left has prioritized its hatred of President Trump above the rule of law. To put it plainly, the left hates President Trump more than they love this country.
House Republicans are willing to do just about anything to protect Donald Trump from the consequences of his actions.
Bragg has agreed to testify before the committee on July 12th, the day after Donald Trump is scheduled to be sentenced for his convictions on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to keep hush money payments to his alleged porn star paramour, Stormy Daniels, from hurting his election chances in 2016. The hearing came the same day as Donald Trump's first visit to Capitol Hill since the deadly storming of the Capitol by Trump supporters on January 6, 2021. Andrew Bailey goes to Congress. Gene, your thoughts on that and the hearing itself? Is this a legit pursuit for the House Judiciary Committee?
Well, I mean, the whole prosecution of Donald Trump is very unusual, and I think they're trying to hear from folks who are actual prosecutors about why it was handled this way, why they think it is unusual. Because this was these charges they were beyond the,
Is Bailey right? Do Democrats hate Trump more than they love America?
I don't think so. There may be some who do, but I think in general that's a pretty broad statement to make. But I think people on the right are very frustrated by this prosecution.
Michael?
This is a show trial. I mean, this is a show that's happening up there. And for Andrew Bailey to go participate in it, I get it. I guess it means something to Republicans to go show your allegiance. But really, Mr. Attorney General, you don't have time to be doing stuff right here in the state of Missouri. You can go weigh in. I'm sure next this could be a part of his tour now down to the border. I'm so sick of these politicians who are using some of this governmental process in other states to get attention for themselves, rather than telling me, what are you going to do?
Well, I think Bragg was trying to get attention for himself. He ran on the idea of prosecuting the president. And what I meant to say earlier was that this was beyond the statute of limitations. This should have never come to trial, and Bailey was there to point that out.
President Biden's son Hunter is now a convicted felon too. A federal jury took just a few hours to convict him on 3 felony counts related to Hunter Biden's lying about his illegal drug use when filling out a form to buy a handgun. Michael, how does this impact his father's election chances?
Not much.
No.
And good. I mean, look, I'm not going to be voting for Hunter Biden. Seems like a bad dude to me. He's been convicted of 3 felonies. That's enough for me to know that that's a bad person. Now, I can't imagine what it would look like if you had somebody with, 34 of them. You would be embracing it.
Does this lay waste to Republican claims of a 2-tiered system of justice?
Well, the president says he says he won't interfere. The president is acting like a president. The Republican nominee is acting like the child narcissist he is.
Gene?
I think that if Hunter's going to face real jail time, I think his father will pardon him, and I think the American people will forgive him for that. But a lot of Republicans say we don't need more gun laws. We need to enforce the gun laws we have. I think this is a case of that. If you simply enforce these laws, you will save a lot of problems on the long run.
The president says he won't pardon him, but he also doesn't answer the part about commuting his sentence if he's sentenced to jail time.
He's just his kid.
Yeah.
You can't help your kid. Who can you help?
That's right.
Still to come on Hancock and Kelley, the conservative U.S. Supreme Court deals a blow to the pro-life movement, and one of the justices continues to be haunted by an upside-down American flag that was flown outside his house.